good morning from Thursday in Seville. So this morning we just got finished touring the Alcazar, which is actually this giant building right here. Those are just the walls. You actually can't see very much inside from outside. But it was really neat. We did, I made a big oops on buying the tickets. You need the tickets super early for it. Like it was booked out even 2 weeks in advance and you couldn't buy them at all, so had to go through a third-party site. Didn't include the audio guide, so ended up paying probably a lot more than we needed to, but it was really fun to see. I don't know, the audio guide was pretty meh for me. I mean, it did a good job of telling you what room you're in, but
yeah, the rooms were empty, so you wouldn't really have known which room you were in without the audio guide, but there were some little signs that you could have read, but tons of people were crowded around them, so that was helpful.
Yeah, so it was okay. I'd say the inside was really interesting to see. There was obviously big difference between some of the, I'd say the Islamic design and the Catholic design, and it was all intertwined into one, which made it a super interesting like architectural place to visit. I think my favorite part was the Game of Thrones. So are we going to go back to the architecture history?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's kind of cool seeing, even some of the things that were built during Christian times, they still kept a lot of this similar sort of architecture and Islamic influence in the building from those times too. So it was just kind of cool that, even though it was a Christian built, some of the parts of it were Christian built, they did keep that same influence.
Yeah, that was cool. And definitely in not just the architecture, but like in how the whole building was formatted. Like I guess the king's bedroom was on the first floor, right off of the central terrace, which had water fountains, and that's very common in Islamic culture. So yeah, it was pretty neat.
I think that was also functional too. They talked about, one thing I learned from the audio guide was that they talked about, because it's so hot here in the summertime, and obviously there's no air conditioning in the 1500s, the king would sleep on the first floor during the summertime where it was cooler, better sort of air ventilation, but then in the wintertime would sleep on the top floor where it was less humidity and just a little bit warmer from the sun during the day.
Yeah, so it was cool. Again, my favorite part, I think, Game of Thrones was filmed here. This was Dorne. So after we toured the inside, we went outside into what was in Game of Thrones called the Water Gardens. It's actually comprised of 6 or 7 different gardens.
Yeah, lots of different.
Which are really pretty. They're meticulously maintained. There's people working constantly to make sure that they're all upkept nicely. Flowers are watered and everything. So it was really cool to walk through.
My favorite part was that there were peacocks just everywhere. There were tons of them. There was a whole little family that we got to see, but you could see, which one was the male peacock, this beautiful blue. They didn't, raise their feathers up at all, but we did get some cool videos and pictures of them. And then there was a mama peacock that was very skeptical of all the humans because her baby was around, but still really, really neat to see, kind of just out in the open. I always thought the peacocks were somewhat dangerous to humans, but they were pretty relaxed.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see. We're going to try to find some lunch. We actually just got coffee at a pretty local coffee shop. It was okay. Yeah, we're really struggling on the coffee front here in Spain. Had a few good cups, but it's hard to find.
I think as far as Spanish coffee goes, this one was pretty good.
Yeah, it was
good. We have
good.
a high bar for coffee.
So yeah, we're gonna find some food, and then we have a tour of the Cathedral, I think that later this afternoon. So adios for now.
Adios.
the end of the day. Obviously, we're back in our suite now, but we had a good end of the day. After we caught up this morning, we went to the cathedral. Well, first, I guess we got lunch at, what was it, like 100 Sandwiches place?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was actually called, but it was good.
I don't know. They had 100 different sandwich options, and they were tiny. I mean, they were like literally like this long. Like hard to gauge depth, but they were very tiny.
It was hard to pick from the menu though. There was no English, and a lot of the words don't translate, so it was a lot of guessing.
But then we toured the cathedral. I don't know. It was not what I was expecting. Going into it, honestly, I don't know what I expected. I guess a more traditional Catholic cathedral, but what we found were probably like 20 mini chapels, kind of built into the exterior walls, more or less, of the cathedral.
Most of them house tombs, too.
Yeah, most housed tombs, or most were paid for by some merchant that then kind of helped design and paid for it. And they were all gated, so the iron gates, I think, were very popular and evident kind of throughout the entire cathedral. But it did have, I don't know, 3 really cool things. One, I think it had, what do you call it? The backdrop of the altar, the largest altarpiece in the world. So that's kind of cool to see.
And it's the largest Gothic cathedral in the whole world, even to this day.
Yeah, so the altarpiece was amazing. Honestly, it was, I know we have a few pictures here, but it can't even do it justice to the sheer size and complexity that were kind of what made it up. And,
yeah, I think most cathedrals you can sort of see down the aisle, if you will, but in this one there just wasn't even an aisle because it was so big that there were multiple aisles.
Yeah.
So it's hard to capture.
Yeah. And I mean, they tried, I think the whole purpose of the cathedral was they tried to basically push out any and all sense of the mosque that used to be there, which I'd say that they were effective with, but maybe not so effective with some of the use of space inside. But then, you turn yourself around from the altarpiece, and also the altar was made of pure silver, so that's casual, and it was super nice. But you turn yourself around, and it had just absolutely beautiful organs. I would have loved to hear them sing. And the choir was just beautifully carved, extremely intricate. It had a really, really nice kind of a stand that they used to put super large choir books on, 4-sided stand that sat in the middle, and it was just beautiful and intricate.
The bell tower was cool too. We learned yesterday that the bell tower, they had, in Moorish times, they had a donkey walk all the way up the tower 5 times a day for the call to prayer. That's the one thing they didn't tear down as a result of turning it to a Catholic cathedral. But so we walked to the top of it and heard the 45-minute mark on the hour bell go off, which I think scared everyone in the entire
It's very loud.
tower. It was very loud. It was really cool to see and hear.
Yeah, that was cool. I think my third piece was that we walked into, I think it was the room before the treasury. And then, not even in the center of the room, I'd say almost like kind of in a corner of the room was this beautiful piece of silver. And contained within was, what people say is a thorn of Jesus' crown, which was just immaculate. I mean, I didn't even hear it at first. Thankfully, Kelly heard it on the audio guide. People were walking right past it, because if you didn't have the audio guide and if you weren't paying attention like me, then you just didn't know. But, I mean, that to me was one of the most real symbols of Jesus Christ and the crucifixion I've ever seen, and really brings back a lot of memories of like the things that you learn from reading the Bible and the things that we've grown accustomed to seeing, like Jesus on a cross, or just the cross in general. You just get used to seeing it, and it's not it's not as real. But to me, I saw the thorn and encased in this beautiful piece of silver, and it just got really real really fast. So that was really cool. From there, we just came back. We just hung out for a little while before dinner. We have learned that in Spain, between the hours of like 4:30 and 6:30, there is nothing open anyway, so there's no point walking around.
None at all.
So we just came back and hung out, got ready. We walked quite a ways to dinner tonight. I I'd say definitely into the residential area of town. And had dinner there, and it was really good. I think we're getting more used to the tapas thing, but we're also still ordering too much food. They keep telling us to stop ordering so much food.
I don't know. I think this one, the highlight for me was definitely the rice. We had risotto rice in a cast iron skillet with grilled Iberico ham. So that was very different, and there was sort of a bit of a sauce, but it was a little bit crispy almost in the rice from sort of packed down in the pan. So that crispiness was just really cool. We ordered again the after dinner drink that we had, I think our first night. We got it somewhat like limoncello in Italy, but it's called Orujo de Herbas, and it's like an herbal liqueur drink. No offense to Italy, but I think in this case it actually is better than grappa, at least what we've had thus far. But we got that again, and then just sort of wandered back to our hotel. It was a nice walk.
Yeah. So I know this version of the, I guess what we would call a vlog is a little long, but we did do a lot today. So ready to knock out, and then I think more tours of Seville tomorrow.